This loser has never seen the sun, but when he's suddenly isekai'd into a medieval world with summoning powers, he gets a second chance to finally touch some grass. This story begins as our protagonist's favorite game shuts down all of its servers. With the game gone, the protagonist realizes that he will have to touch grass if he doesn't find another game soon that needs 10 years to beat. So, he gets to searching for a hardcore game on the internet and comes across a game that claims to have no ending. With the protagonist's interest already at its peak, he starts feeling like he's up for a real challenge. So he chooses the hardest difficulty Hell mode and also the hardest class summoner, but the second he hits play, the computer literally absorbs him inside the game world and basically reincarnates him as a newborn youngling. His father is happy to learn that he's gotten a son and names him Alan. Alan receives a lot of love from both his parents, so he feels glad even though he's born into a poor farmer's family. Over the next couple of months, he learns that he is currently in a rural village where most of the people cultivate land and pay taxes to their feudal lord. Alan's dad Rodin is a farmer, and his mother Teresia is a housewife. Since both Rodin and Teresia are in their early 20s, Alan believes that he will soon have younger siblings and can't wait to become part of a bigger family. One night, Alan recalls the basic isekai trope and uses the command stat window open. It works, but instead of a holographic system menu popping up, a grimoire appears, causing Alan to freak out. He quickly uses the command stat window close before his parents come in and pretends as if he's asleep. After making sure the parameters are clear, he summons the grimoire again and goes through its pages. The first page has Alan's stats written down, and as expected, all of them are at the lowest rank. The next page entails the details of Alan's summoning skill, and reading it, Alan learns that he apparently is already able to summon H-ranked insects and beasts. The book suddenly glows and flips itself to a new page. It's a message from Elmia, the creator of this world, who explains that the summoner class is still under beta testing, so he apologizes if Alan faces any difficulties because of his chosen class. Alan doesn't care about the message and proceeds to summon an insect, but no matter how many times he tries the incantation, the summoning spell just doesn't work. Alan thinks hard for a solution and realizes that perhaps he needs to create the relevant beast first. So he creates an H-ranked insect card, but as he's about to summon the beast, he notices that his mom, Teresia, is coming. So he pretends to be asleep again, but ends up actually falling asleep. The next early morning, Rodin goes outside and starts chopping wood, while Teresia gets to cleaning their clothes. As both parents are busy outside, Alan uses this opportunity and uses the insect summoning spell, causing his room to be filled with luminescent balls of spirits. Fortunately for Alan, his mom isn't paying attention, so he quickly gets on with it. And as the spirit balls are condensed once again, they manifest into a cat-sized grasshopper. Seeing its angry expression, Alan wonders if this creature will even listen to his commands. He decides to still give it a try and with his half-broken youngling voice, orders the bug to fly to his hands. The bug, however, turns the other way, making Alan wonder if it's dumb or something. He suspects that the reason the grasshopper isn't listening to his commands must be because he hasn't met the necessary conditions yet. So he checks the grimoire and looks at the grasshopper's stat menu. He picks the name Denka for the green bug and then looks at its stats, when he learns that this tiny little insect actually gives him +1 endurance and agility. This fact causes Alan to blurt out the word awesome on impulse, prompting his mom to enter the room. Seeing the ugly insect grosses Teresia out, and she instinctively stomps on it. Despite this accident, Alan continues to test his summoning skill whenever he gets the opportunity, and one day, decides to summon a beast. A white rat comes out, and as expected of an H-rank beast, it's also dumb as bricks, just like Denka. Still, Alan gives it the name Mousy, and then looks at its stats when he learns that it actually has an ability called Scurry. Alan manages to activate this ability, causing Mousy to scurry around him. This makes him wonder what kind of strong monsters he can potentially summon and control. For now, he can only create a total of 10 summoning cards, so he creates 10 Mousy cards, and as a result, his attack stats get a plus boost because of Mousy's buff. With this boost, he can now easily chop wood even though he's only a year old, but he still doesn't think it's enough. This makes him wonder how much easier the game would have been if he had chosen any other difficulty, so he regrets picking Hell mode. Rodin comes back home with myoglobin all over him, making Teresia worry if he's hurt, but Rodin claims to be fine, explaining that he went to a boar hunt earlier which caused this. Rodin asks Alan if he'd like to see the boar they've hunted down, and as Alan excitedly nods, Rodin carries him to the place where the beast is being carved up. On their way there, they see a flock of birds called alba herons, who are no less than dinosaurs in size, so Rodin refers to them as monsters. Rodin tells Alan a fun fact, saying that he named him after those birds, hoping that he too would live a free life and fly around wherever he wants to in this world. He sleeps off on Rodin's hands as Rodin walks to take him to his creature. When they eventually arrive at the location, Rodin wakes him up and shows him the great boar. When he touches the Great Boar, the first thing he thinks about is the fact that the monster is so great, and he doubts that he can successfully defeat that kind of monster. One of their neighbors, Gerda, walks up to Rodin and hypes him up as the star of the day. The other villagers there hail Rodin because that kind of victory isn't one that anyone can achieve, so Rodin had done so well. Gerda notices Alan and comments on Alan's black hair and eyes. Alan greets him in return, and he is shocked that Alan can talk at the age of 1. He comments that Alan is growing so much better than Krita, his daughter, who is about the same age as Alan. Alan asks about the Great Boar and how strong it is, so Gerda explains that the Great Boar is a C-ranked monster. It isn't something that a person can single-handedly handle, and it needs about 20 men to kill it. This only gives Alan enough opportunity to gauge himself and think of how he could be better. 10 months pass by as fast as possible, and Alan is now 1 year and 10 months old. He keeps trying his hand at his skills, and he realizes that he can now summon G-ranked monsters. He can also successfully fuse together H and G rank monsters. He has cards of both H and G ranked monsters and checks his cards, then tries to use his newly acquired power, but he gets a notification that he has low MP. He assumes the problem is hunger, so he goes to eat his meal. He rushes a huge plate of food, and his parents look visibly concerned, but he returns to his room immediately to check his powers. When he tries to fuse the cards again, it doesn't work. Again,